happy finale week. I guess it's not even a happy occasion. NASCAR Pinty Series finale week at Delaware Speedway. Hello, everybody. Cam K, your wingman for the next hour here on G4's TV. Can you believe it? We're on episode 18 already of the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour. Oh, man. Afterlife. What the heck is going on? You stoked for the brawl or what? 25 of Canada's finest. Might be more than 25. Kyle Edgar says Powell in the 3 car. Interesting. That would be fun. Afterlife. Delaware Speedway. True Canadian racing landmark since 1952. I can't wait. Delaware Speedway has been putting on some of the best racing that I have watched all season long. I'm so stoked because this racetrack, honestly, the racetrack itself, and there's some people that maybe aren't biggest fans of Delaware Speedway, but from what they've done in the offseason, I think they did something that we, as race fans, weren't sure that was going to be able to happen, which was they made, I think, racing better at Delaware. I mean, the stuff that we've seen this season in the weekly events has shown. Now, obviously, we don't know about the Pinty Series and how they're going to do. That's going to be very interesting to see whether or not that second groove is able to come in. We've seen it all season long, super stocks, late models. It'll be very interesting to see kind of how the track changes throughout the weekend. I'll be interested to see kind of how these cars handle. There's a bunch of guys that race on this racetrack week in and week out that are going to be a part of this race. And I'm wondering if that gives them any sort of advantage. I mean, we would think maybe not, but at the end of the day, it's quite interesting regardless that we're going to get to a point where the finale is at a racetrack that now people are they know what they're doing. Hi, Rich. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've heard a couple different names. I think Kyle said Powell in the 3. I don't know if that's not the name I've heard. I've heard Alex Gannett, which I mean, I like sure, that would be great, but it's an odd name because he's already tied to Dave Jacobs Racing with the Fords, and you would have thought that maybe he would have, if he was going to run the finale, he would have run with them. Very much could be a situation. Maybe they just don't have a car ready. I don't know. I know Alex is working hard for next year to be able to come back and do a full season. I know he wants to. Obviously, he showed this year that he can win. Afterlife, the weekly race has been great this year. Pinty's race is going friggin' great. Yeah, I mean, it has been. It's been pretty remarkable, in fact, that that we've had, pretty much a fun time at Delaware Speedway this year. It's been really, really impressive what they've done to the racetrack, and what's nice about it is that there's room here. We don't know what Yukasa is going to be like next year. The reality is it's a very tough hill for them to come back. We don't know yet what the scenario is going to be, but I think this type of environment, this type of race weekend with APC super stocks, with Oscar hot rods, Oscar modifieds, the bone stocks on the Friday night, this is turned into, I think, more than what we saw at Yukasa. And it's great. I mean, I love seeing this. I think that there's a lot of potential as we head to 2023. Jeremy, I got comments here, which is great to see. Wes, I'm excited, not as I wasn't excited last year. We don't know how 4 places in the standings will be, but I'm excited for the Superstocks Friday. Go Garrett. Absolutely, Garrett Teamersmo, great guy. Really hope the best for him. How's it going, Cam? Going great, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Hope everyone is having a good Monday. Can't believe the season has already reached. Yeah, it's tough. Is it true James Barker Band is playing? I believe they are on the Friday, if I'm not mistaken. You can obviously find out DelawareSpeedway.com for all your information. It is the James Barker Band, the Wreck Laws, and Gord Bamford on the Friday. So not on the Friday, on the Thursday. So it's not playing. They're not playing this weekend. It's the Thursday concert, Jeremy. So you got to make sure you get out there for the Thursday concert. I don't see anything else that they're not scheduled anywhere else here that they're going to be there for the rest of the weekend. So the event begins at 5:30 on Thursday. So if you want to make sure you attend that concert and have yourselves a great old time before the racing starts Friday. Afterlife, Daniel Bois, nope, spelt it right, is going to be there testing a motor for Yates. It's technically, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we get, the series gets their motors from Yates. I think that's kind of what they're there for. Whether or not they're testing, I would imagine if they need somebody to test something, they're not going to obviously ask somebody that's in. They're not going to ask somebody that's in the championship battle to test a motor for them. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm glad to see that we're going to have a pretty good contingent of cars, some drivers, lots of people that are going to be there this weekend, and that's what you need. You need people to see the series. You need people to see what you can kind of work up to, and that's the thing. Is you can say there is people. Listen, NASCAR Pinty Series is the top series of NASCAR in Canada in terms of stock car series. I think obviously you have the APC series as being the top late model series in all of Canada. There really isn't anything else that compares up to it. I mean, you could maybe say the ACT Tour, except that's more of an American-Canadian deal. Afterlife says Jukasa will come back one day. Yeah, absolutely it will. Just hopefully to the right people, and hopefully we can see it continue to grow. Absolutely. So one thing I think we can continue to say for this year is that we know the championship battle is pretty well, it's sorted. We know that 96 is pretty much the champion. Nothing's going to happen to change that. So pretty much starts the race and will become the champion for 2022. Obviously, a huge deal for GM Paillet for their first year as a team. But if you don't think that the rest of the field is going to come back even crazier to win next year than they had this year, obviously circumstances are one thing. There's been a lot of talk about what's happened behind the scenes. I'm not privy to that information as to the tech side of things, whether or not cars are legal, if they're not legal. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm here to enjoy the racing and enjoy everything that's been there. Later green flag time than normal. Flo says starting at 4:30 Sunday. Interesting. I'm not sure, Wes, when the race is supposed to be, because I would have thought that they would. You think it's going to be practice? I didn't see anything that has a breakdown of what's happening all weekend yet. Yeah. Riegser, the best of the men here. And I'm not crapping on anybody else here, but if you guys haven't already, go to Riegser's channel. He covers the NASCAR Pinty Series, does race reviews, has done an amazing job so far promoting this series. So I want to definitely throw a shout out to him. It's been a fast season. Wish it hadn't flown by so fast. Absolutely, I wish it hadn't flown by so fast too. But hoping for an awesome finale regardless. I think we'll see that, Riggs. I think it's going to be a really good finale. I think there's going to be a lot of close action. And yeah, we've seen the 96 been dominant, but this is Delaware, man. This is DJ's house, and I don't expect the DJ's going to just lay over and let this finale go all on Sunday. Okay, so Rick Verburn confirming here. Practice qualifying all on the Sunday plus 2. That's right. There's going to be 2 King of the Hill spectator races. One is going to be an all cars race, and then the other is going to be SUVs and trucks. That at least was the tentative plan. Of course, we know things change on race day, so it just depends on how many vehicles they have that show up. Jeremy Smith says, still can't believe all the money that got thrown at Jukasa it folded. Okay, so you have to remember, though, that money was put in, invested, and the time was put into it because of an amazing owner named, I'm completely blanking on his name now. But he put in the money. Jesus, know his name because I talked about it all the time. Kenny Hill put in Ooh, he put in a lot of money to that place. And unfortunately, we lost Kenny Hill. And with that came the guy that wanted it to succeed, right? He was the one that invested so much of it. So definitely, obviously a tough situation there. What we really need is somebody to kind of move in that place. We don't know the situation. All I have been told by people that are well connected within that Jukasa Motor Speedway is that it isn't officially dead. It's not closed permanently. It is just what the situation is. Yes, it was Kenny Hill. This is what happens when you have a busy day. You can't remember everything. Mike Charest. I have to confirm if is it Charest or Charest, because I want to make sure I don't butcher your name. Mike, the flagman for this season. Good evening, all. Practice is 12 to 12:45. Qualifying 3:20. Main at 4:30. Typically is about 2 hours, so we finish. That's a good time, actually. I like what I see here for the timing. Jeremy says, I'd say, especially coming out of the pandemic, this season has been a huge success. If they can get a little more support from NASCAR as a corporation and maybe a few more American races, that will be in good shape. What do you mean, Jeremy, in terms of the American races? Because we're not going to the U.S. I don't think that isn't a good idea. We have to try and get it. How was the storm today? Nuts. But it was like 5 minutes, Kyle. That's about it. We only got 5 minutes here. I don't know where you're at, but that's all we got. Nice to see all you three back. You have lots of fun in the chat. I heard NASCAR might take it over now that they realized. So NASCAR has always been the overseers. However, that's not exactly the situation. It was a NASCAR team originally, but it was overseen by people in the U.S. That is not supposed to happen next year. It sounds as if that it's going to be a team completely led up here by Tony Spiteri. Who that's going to involve, no idea. Not sure. Charest, perfect. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. In terms of corporations, I mean, we have a couple racers in the chat here. They know what it's like to get corporation sponsorship. It's not easy. It's tough to find companies that are willing to throw out money. I mean, even for late models. I mean, Tyler can tell you all about what it's like in running APC late models. Yeah, it's cheaper than the NASCAR Pinty Series, but it's getting up there in terms of cost. We've heard super stock drivers are spending crazy amounts of money. Tires are really expensive this year. Travel costs as well. It is absolutely crazy. Owl says, GeForce, what are you saying about the Pinty Series going to the U.S.? Even the Pinty Series isn't popular in Canada. Well, thank you. You're not in the right type of show to be spouting off like that. Albert says, good. Gonna rain Sunday. When is the rain date? Great question. No idea, Albert. Maybe they don't have one. Yeah, so getting corporation money is not an easy thing, right? Like you're asking quite a lot. I don't know what the plans are. Truck Series is not coming back, unfortunately, to CTMP. That's not happening. It's already been confirmed that it's not happening next year. There's no plans for it to come back. We were told that, as far as my understanding was, that NASCAR officials came, we're talking like big NASCAR officials, so I believe O'Donnell came here and said that it's not going to happen because there was some sort of promotion that they were trying to do with the Silverado. It didn't really work, so they've decided that this is maybe not the best opportunity. And if they're going to come back, it's not going to be the Truck Series. I believe the plan is for Xfinity. And if they are going to come back, it's going to be at GP3R, is at least the rumor. Whether or not that happens, who knows? But we know it's not happening next year. I thought CTMP was perfect for the Truck Series. I thought it would have been great for Cup and Xfinity as well. But they make the decisions. We're just kind of here to figure out why. Like really, they can't fly in the U.S. and they can't really fly in Canada in terms of coverage. You got to think about money, remember, right? These guys don't make the money that the U.S. guys do, right? I think a lot of it has to do with the border, and that's the reason why they don't want to have it there. It's not like IndyCar. When IndyCar came here, they had an implementation for everybody to be vaccinated, so that you can't enforce that everywhere. So obviously they made the decision that best fit them. I think Truck Series in a way was kind of running its turn at the CTM. I mean, we had seen car counts kind of dwindle. The racing was amazing. Like, it was always really, really good. I think Pinty Series needs, you can say it needs a bit more corporate help. It absolutely does. I think a lot of things people seem to remember about NASCAR is how amazing it was in terms of how much reach it had, and it is see, now this is something we didn't have news about. So Mike's actually breaking some news here, because this, I don't believe has been public, but at least not to us, but Sherry Putnam is leaving after this season. So it is Owl, absolutely. Canadian motorsports always has a hard time selling sponsors. It's true. Ray Morneau is driving for 22 Racing, Albert, for Scott Steckley. He'll be driving the 03 car. The entry list has been posted, and it is in the NASCAR Pinty Series community page, along with NASCAR.ca. It is true, though, Al. Yeah, besides Canada, unfortunately, is a tough place to do even international. It's true, because you would have thought that IndyCar and Formula One would get huge support. I don't think it really does, because even we don't do anything local. There's no local broadcast. Now, that has something to do with the F1 broadcast rights, but it doesn't seem like there's any coverage. So say Ontario, when you have the Formula One race taking place at Montreal, there's no coverage in Toronto about it. So it's one of those things, like, we're never going to be above hockey. It's never going to get to that point. But we got our market. We got to try and see what we can get, right? And unfortunately, it's true. So I do want to head back to what Mike has mentioned here. So Sherry has been in charge of the NASCAR Pinty Series through a lot. She's one of the things that you have to remember is that when you're in charge, you have to give all types of news. It's not normally great news. You have to be the one to make the decisions. You have to be the one that has to be involved in tons of meetings, tons of planning. It's a lot. And I think a lot of us take for granted how much of a job it actually is. With that, obviously, we've seen a growth in the series. It did dip, but this year it's definitely is perked up a lot. You're right, Al. It won't be above the big four. NFL as well. You have to throw in that as well. It's never going to be above the NFL. Curling, I don't think it'll ever be above either. It's just, you got to find, and this is the biggest thing, is the market is easily tapped out here in terms of sponsorship. You have to go to the places that maybe no one would think of. Jeremy says, that's a shot in the gut to CTMP. CTMP is and always has been perfect for these heavy cars. The track in Montreal is and always is perfect for Formula One, in my opinion. And the same can be said for the Cup Series trying to navigate COTA. It's true, right? You can't make things work. But I would say if you're going to have a story again, the story has got to be going to Montreal or GP3R and bring Cup with it. I think in terms of wanting to build a successful weekend, listen, we can say as much as we want about the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, but at the end of the day, that's still the second and third tier series in NASCAR's grand scheme of things. The way that you would have to market it is you're going to have to make it a big deal. Now, adding some of the Pinty's guys into that would be great, but again, we're looking in terms of the budgetary changes between the two of them. So if we were to look at two different sources here, look at the money that the Cup Series puts in. Now, unfortunately, they don't publish the purses, but I did some research this week, and the purse difference between one race at Daytona and the entire season of the Pinty Series back in 2008 was absolutely staggering. Looking specifically at DJ Kennington, he made more in one race at Daytona in the Xfinity Series than he did for the entire NASCAR Canadian Tire Series season. That's the discrepancy. That's what you're up against. And unfortunately, people and fans do have the expectation that this series is going to be exactly like that. It's never going to get the money that you've seen in the United States. Now, what we've seen is a big increase in terms of some sponsors that have come in and really put in a lot of money, like your Quick Wicks, like your Paillet's. We've seen that. WeatherTech's another one. However, it's the decrease of new sponsorships coming in that is the biggest struggle right now. So teams finding their own sponsors is hard, but NASCAR themselves has a big hurdle to face week after week, year after year. So the more that we can do coverage on the NASCAR Pinty Series, the more social media presence it has, the more names that get out there, that's what is going to help. Yes, we need more coverage. It's hard to do that, obviously, in a certain budget. But you have to remember, Sherry has led this series for the last couple of years. As Mike has said, Sherry is unfortunately, she's leaving. So that's going to mean things are going to change for next year. I have no idea who's going to move into that role as a series director. We obviously know Tony Spiteri is going to be the GM of NASCAR Canada, but that's not series director for the series, right? So there's a lot that still goes into that. Jim, sorry I'm late. Had to have dinner for that. Congratulations, 35 years. That's fantastic. My parents just celebrated 37 last week, so too long-standing. Congratulations, Jim. Owl, Montreal needs to be on the list considering that if NASCAR is going to do a cup race in Canada, I agree with you. They need to do it in Montreal considering that it's everything NASCAR is on road courses. I would agree with you on that as well. GP3R, that's the problem, though, is like you said, it has to be specifically timed to GP3R weekend, which is the beginning of August. Now, that can work. Again, though, it's a time squeeze. Do I think that the Cup Series would fit at GP3R? Yes. Is it an upgrade over, say, going to CTMP? Track-wise, I'm going to say no. I'm only going to say no for a specific reason because you don't have the camping that goes all the way around. You have camping in section, but you don't have it that goes all the way around the track, which I think would be a huge plus if the Cup Series were to come. I think you would pack that completely full. It would have to be timed specifically, as you said. Jeremy says, I wonder if Castrol will stay behind DJ Racing. So in 2020, I believe they re-upped their contract for a multi-year. Multi-year meaning, I believe, 2021 and 2022. I don't know what that means for next year. I would love to say that I'm confident and say that they will be back. I don't know. One thing that's very different from other NASCAR series is that the lower divisions don't really make it a big. They don't let people know about their negotiations. They don't know about sponsorships until right near when the season's going to start. I'm hoping to change that. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some teams to open up with news over teams or what cars they're going to use, what sponsors they have coming in. It's going to be a bit of a change here to try and get people to open up because it is a lot more of a closed niche series. So we're getting there. I think more teams are trying to get on social media, more drivers getting onto social media. It is a learning experience, and they're starting to see that there is benefits of that social media exposure. We're a little bit late to the game there. I think that's pretty obvious. This season alone, I think they've increased a lot. I think you've seen a lot of the teams and drivers have now social media people that are in charge of making sure that they have posts out. So it's not all on them. Let me get back to here. Is Jukasa a track that could be leased or is that ship sailed? Yes, Sean, I believe it can be leased. The problem is I don't know what the cost and the asking cost is. You have to remember here, if I'm not mistaken, tracks have to pay NASCAR to come there. It's not we pay them to be able to go there. So that's where kind of the problem lies. Jim, what happened to the easy money days when what happened to the easy money days went away with cigarette companies being banned. Yes, because they just handed out cash and consolidation. And of all the big beer companies has not helped. I agree with you. I understand the reasoning behind it. Cigarette companies, obviously, we don't need, but beer is perfectly fine on race cars. There's this belief that beer companies are banned in terms of sponsorship. I believe it's similar to the, it might be similar to like cannabis branding. So cannabis can be on a Pinty's car, if I'm not mistaken. It can be. However, you cannot mention any sort. You can't mention cannabis. You can't have any graphics with like the cannabis leaf on it. It can't have any of those symbolizations on it. So it's a little bit tricky with the government of Canada on what you can or can't do. So we'll see, right? It's something that, again, cannabis and beer, lots of market here in Canada. I think we've seen, obviously, in, say, the Ontario Sportsman Series, they have a partnership with a lager company. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I have asked regarding whether or not that type of company can be on the cars, and there still seems to be some confusion and not very much clarity. I was told from somebody at NASCAR that it can happen. Cigarettes, obviously, I think that time has kind of passed. We're not in a period of time when the majority of people are, there was a large majority, at least, that were smoking back in the 80s and the 90s. It's changed now. It's not like that, right? So, for sure. Absolutely, because marijuana is legal in Canada, right? Or at least in Ontario. So, I know it's in Canada. So, technically, I believe you can. You just cannot have specific, specific verbiage and specific logos relating to such. So you could have something as, I don't know, let's just put a name of a company like Spinach, for example. If it doesn't have any reference, and it doesn't say or any reference to the cannabis, and if it doesn't have any image about it, it just has the word spinach, none's the wiser, right? I believe that's the thing. But again, all these sponsorships have to go for approval first, right? So I don't know if NASCAR down south is going to truly let everything happen up here, if it's going to be like a team dealt with up here. I don't know why we would turn away the corporate money. Obviously, you can look at it and go, well, that's money from this source. But here, it's not a problem. I mean, here where there's, if it's in down south, where there are states that do not, have legality behind cannabis, I can see it being a problem for sure. Yeah, so that's pretty much what the situation is. So we head into this weekend. We have some confirmations now on who is going to be at the race, which is awesome. So here's some names that we know for sure. They've been confirmed. They were added onto the entry list that was posted. I'm expecting potentially 2 more. The 3 car, which I've heard several different names driving it, and then the 61, I would expect Weller will be out at some point. I would expect his family member mentioned he would be at the finale week. And the 3 car, I wouldn't think that Jason Hathaway wouldn't run it if there's not somebody that wants to be in it. If it's something as simple as like it's a rental car available and somebody wants it, there you go. Jim. Jim. Every week somebody wants the series to come to the U.S., but unless it was a really popular short track, I don't see any positives. As a speedway like Michigan's are hard money you need for the offseason. They tried this in New Hampshire, and while it was a good idea in theory, it was a very costly trip. I don't know how much cheaper it is actually to race there than, say, going to Newfoundland. It might actually have been a cheaper trip, but it's a hard sell because we don't know. The cars didn't really run really great, I didn't think, at the New Hampshire track. They were very spread out, not a lot of passing. These cars aren't used to driving on that big of a racetrack. And you say it's not really that big. Well, compared to what Pinty's drivers race on ovals. Yeah, it was. So they tried that for a couple years. Not too much happened in those, but I would agree. I don't think that I think, again, we don't have the money here already as it is. What you would need is an American series that is overflowing with money, like the Cup Series, to come up, right? Xfinity Series to come up. Now, at the same time, if it's me, I'm going, well, Xfinity doesn't market in Canada. We don't have Xfinity up here. So that's not going to benefit them. The Cup Series, I think, is what? Monster Energy. Is that a tier sponsor? Geico, Coca-Cola. Like, so those are things that you would get up in Canada, right? Again, the problem is distance, right? Distance. If they could set something, so if they could find a way to get everybody down there, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that would be so cool. But the reality is some of the teams, they don't have the money even to go province to province here. So again, people look at that as that's the solution. Whereas what you could try and do is focus more races within Ontario and Quebec, because that's where a lot of the money for this series is found. Absolutely. Bristol West is my bet would be Bristol because of the Pinty's contract, the Pinty's deal. Pinty's is sponsored there many a time. So that's where I would go. But again, distance, right? That's what we're talking about. So that's where it is. But let's take a look at this roster here. So the most we've seen since 2013 has been 26. Right now we're looking at 25 on an oval. This would be a pretty good get for Delaware Speedway. Glenn Stires, we expected, was going to be obviously here. Ray Morneau Jr. officially is going to drive the 03. This is for 22 racing. And so it's not going to be a small car. This is a good deal for Ray. This is at one of the big-time teams. Interesting note, it does say Dodge on the entry list. I think that's a typo because he was testing a Chevy. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a Chevy that he's going to run. JP Bergeron, TJ Renamato. Again, 3 cars missing off of this list because it was not entered initially. Raphael Lessard, Brandon Watson, Matthew Kingsbury, DJ Kennington, Alex Tagliani, Trayton Lapsevich, Kyle Steckley, running back. Of course, he runs weekly here at Delaware Speedway. Andrew Ranger, Trevor Monahan returning to the series. And how about MBS Motorsports? First oval start for them. Daniel Ball returning to run here at Delaware Speedway. LP Dumoulin, Gary Clute. We expect maybe the 61 there is going to fit right in for Delaware, which would make it 27 cars, which would be a pretty big increase. Wallace Stacy, Mark Dilley, Cathcart Lacroix, Donald Teague returning, Larry Jackson, Dexter Stacy, Marc-Antoine Cameron, the champion for 2022, and Sam Fellows. There was a couple more guys that we were initially thinking were going to make the trip. Doesn't appear that we're going to get any Western or Eastern drivers for this event. Also doesn't appear that we're going to see any additional entries. We had a couple that were dependent on sponsorship. Doesn't appear that that's going to happen any longer. No other Klutes that I know of right now. Sean's Garage, maybe the 6 runs. That would be cool. I have not heard anything. It wasn't on the entry list, but it'd be very cool to see if Ryan or Peter run. I haven't seen Peter run, I think, an oval in his career, really. So, be interesting to see if they do that. I don't believe that there is going to be any, but be cool. Watkins Glen, Sean's Garage says would be the most realistic. I agree with you. That is the most realistic. And if they're going to do it, why not do it the same weekend that the Cup Series, ARCA, trucks, whatever is going to run there next year? I obviously I can't remember right now what's on the 2023 schedule, but that would be my bet, because we've done the going to New Hampshire. That wasn't really great, but the road course could be something that would be fun to watch. Jim says, it's with the money exchange, it is a killer for you guys, already tight budgets and a discount for the U.S. going there. Exactly. You can't use up cars that you need for Canada home races. Absolutely true. I agree with you, Jim. It's true. It's a tough sell. I obviously believe that if you're going to go and want to increase the schedule, you got to go Ontario, Quebec. We already know Montmagny and Granby want races, in Quebec. I don't know about Flamborough, Peterborough, Sauble. And what's the other one? Laird, I think, are the ovals that we have choices of. Ohsweken obviously has gotten one. I don't know about like Humberstone and Merrittville. I don't know if they're even of the quality or the size. Shannonville, same situation. I believe it's Ready Calabogie has noise restrictions. Mont Tremblant has noise restrictions. So there's a lot that stands in the way. However, I have heard that Riverside is not off the table for a future start with this series once again because they're going out east to Newfoundland as it is. So that would be a welcomed return. Obviously, as I mentioned to you week in and week out on the series, is that most drivers that we have talked to, that's the track that they want to go back to. It's one of their favorites. Jukasa and Riverside. Those are the two that we hear of all the time. Yeah. Yeah, Sean's Garage. That's absolutely right. The Glen is still close enough for Canadians to get to and buy cheaper cold snacks. Yeah. That's the truth, isn't it? It's all about what type of cold snacks you want, though, right? Because if you want quality stuff, you're really not going to find it at a lot of the racetracks, let's be honest. But we head into this weekend with still a battle in the points championship. Obviously, we're going to bring the standings up once again. See everybody there on the left-hand side here. I know Jeremy Smith says... Oh, hold on a second. Jim says, I would try a new racetrack that is semi-local where we might do some good. Granby is flow, and they look weekly like they have what looks like full stand. Same with Montmagny. NASCAR home tracks too. And so that would definitely get them some attention. Absolutely would get them some attention from NASCAR. Good look, at least. Jeremy Smith says, I know Caden Lapsevich was part of NASCAR Next, but is his brother. I don't know if that exists anymore for the Penny Series, to be honest with you. I know NASCAR Next isn't a highly marketed thing, but it could help draw some more excitement towards the series. I think it's really going to be up to the fans, man. I think we've kind of waited for NASCAR to do that, and NASCAR Down South has... Listen, here's the thing. I love this series. It's probably my favorite series in all of NASCAR. It is my favorite. The reality is, if we think that NASCAR is going to market this series above the Cup Series, Xfinity, and Truck Series, we are sadly mistaken. That's never going to happen. That's their big ticket market. Okay, that's what they want to promote. We have to remember, this series, even though it's our national series, is marketed as part of a local home track feel. It's part of the Mexico Series, the Euro Series, ARCA. It's on the same level as ARCA. Now, to us and to me, it is not ARCA. It is our series. Okay? So it's kind of insulting to see it on the same level because it's not. Now, is that ever going to change? Hard to say. You bring it away from, say, the NASCAR home tracks feel into its own team, its own representatives that are promoting it, like yours truly. Let's just say if I'm the one that's promoting it now instead of somebody that's down south, I have a lot more invested in this series. I have a lot more to show about it. I have a lot more to talk about it for, whereas they don't. You know, yeah, it's NASCAR. They have a product. They want to see it survive. Sure. But again, it's the guys that are involved in the series that are fans of it that want it to grow up. Again, yeah, as Wes said, it is. It's a part of Flow. It's a part of the NASCAR roots. Now, do I think the NASCAR roots program is great? No, I don't. It's not a shot. It's just my honest opinion. I think that marketing certain places in terms of ARCA is different. ARCA is a developmental series for the East and the West, and then overall in the entire United States. This is not a development series because it's yet to be able to get someone into the Cup Series from the Pinty Series. It's not happened, right? The highest we've gotten is the Xfinity Series. Sure, you can say DJ Kennington made it to the Cup Series, but did he go through this NASCAR Roots program? No, he didn't. It's a very, very obvious misstep. Now, if you remember, and people might forget this, we had an option many years ago called Fans Choice TV. It was a free streaming service. Free. What happened was NBC became involved. NBC took that free option away, and it became Track Pass, which then we weren't able to access. So then you only had TSN. Well, a lot of people don't have TSN. So now all of a sudden you have Flow Racing. People are still not too happy that they've got to pay for a subscription to be able to watch the NASCAR Pinty series. I absolutely get that. There's a lot of things that they're going to work on this year. I think we have to remember there's a team. There's new people coming involved that will definitely make it. Didn't or doesn't JV run in the NASCAR Euro Series? Absolutely he does. I don't know if he still is, but Owl says NASCAR is falling into a massive scam when it comes to flow racing. I'm curious what you mean. ARCA, before NASCAR bought them, was mostly managed by a team over in Toledo. How many people here even know they have a NASCAR Mexico and Euro unless you are racing? Well, that's true. It's true, Jim. It's this. That's part of my problem here. I think a lot more people knew CASCAR than knew the NASCAR Pinty series. That's why we're doing this type of show. That's why we're trying to change that. We have to have more content out there if you want corporations to come in and know what the series is. Remember, we're still at a disadvantage here. People put this sign side by side with, well, why don't we get a TV package like Cup has? Easy. Money. Also, we don't have a channel like NBC or Fox in Canada. Unless you're going to see the NASCAR Pinties all of a sudden go on to mainstream CTV for a live broadcast, I don't see that happening because you're going to have to kick off something else. And in terms of like CFL football, that's not going to happen. Right? So that's where we're at a disadvantage. The team is amazing at putting the broadcast together. Absolutely spectacular. In fact, I feel that they don't get enough gratitude for what they do. People just complain. And which, I mean, I get it. We're fans. We're going to be angry and upset if things don't always go the way that we're looking here. Jeremy says, I don't want to seem like I'm throwing stones because I'm just being honest. But anytime I watch a series on TSN, I feel like I'm watching the screen. Oh, that's not great, Jeremy. That's pretty low. It's pretty good for what we've gotten. You have to remember, okay, and this is as straight as it goes. This team was used to just putting hour-long pre-recorded segments together. We've only made the step to live stream recently. That's what people have to remember. This is still new. The money is not what they get for the United States. Not at all. They don't have, and it's funny, people would go and say, well, they've got to have like 12 cameramen. They don't. I think 4, maybe, at that. And they're running around all the time. Said, it's easy. Honestly, Jeremy, I've been there. It's so easy to be like, well, this isn't. But when you get to start talking to them and you know how much goes into it, it's definitely a big, and it's a harder thing to realize that if you're only getting 3 or 4 corporate sponsors that support the broadcast, that's not enough money coming in for you to put on something bigger. You have to remember too, is there's a change in provinces, right? So a change of equipment. It's not like Fox and it's not like NBC that's got the same team all season long. Dragging big equipment all in a trailer. It's not the same. You have to remember too, it's not TSN that's putting the broadcast on. It is broadcast on TSN, but is a separate contracted team that puts the broadcast on. So it's not TSN. That's a misconception that a lot of people have. It's not actually them. It's not actually Flow Racing putting on the broadcast. It's one team at Fuel Media Lab that then broadcasts it through those channels. Okay, Owl says, I think there's something more suspicious when it comes to flow racing. I've gotten reports of people being forcibly billed for a year's subscription instead of a monthly one. That type of stuff I've heard can happen. And I'd be very wary, especially if that's what's happening. In fact, Flow Sports had... Oh, gee. Oh, no. Also had a reputation for running a site with awful local and billing wrong subscription. That's terrible, Owl. Absolutely awful. Jim, I hope that's not right. Or I hope that's not true. Jim Haynes, I've been involved at one level or another, starting the stands in the late 60s, and NASCAR only started worrying about Cup then, and every few years talk about series and ignore. Yeah, I agree with you. Same thing. I'll bring it to you, Jim. My belief is that when they started to realize that they were losing a lot of corporate sponsors, losing a lot of people, it was already too late. So now all of a sudden they're doing whatever they can to promote the series down south to try and save it. Whereas we've had this kind of steady growth. Garrett says, TV crews work just as hard as the race teams, and that's saying something because I feel I never support it. That's true. Sean's Garage, I think the TSN live coverage after this weekend maybe was using GeForce to cover the race. No. So, again, that's all under one umbrella, right? GeForce is there, right? So GeForce had a team that was already doing the stuff there. They can work with the team at TSN. Now, again, it's not TSN that's putting the broadcast on. You have to remember, it's not TSN. It's another company that's contracted by TSN to put the broadcast out. Okay? That is then sourced to tsn.ca and to Flow Racing. It's the same broadcast. People think they're two different ones. No. It's the exact same. It just depends which one gets online first. I respect the film crews and the streaming companies, but Flow is just sketchy stuff. I go with TSN, right? Because that's what I know. I can't speak to it because I don't know, but definitely I would be checking if you've got some sort of sketch going on. You can get a TSN subscription. You can get a tsn.ca or a TSN app subscription, and that way at least you have your options. The other option is it's not live, but the 1 hour broadcast will be put on the following week, and or it does normally get uploaded to YouTube as well. So pretty much all of the 2022 races, and I think you can go back to maybe 2012. I think they're all pretty much on YouTube at some point. Just put in the Pinty series. You can typically find it. Wesley said there was more than... So I don't think Wesley was specifying that the coverage went down. It was... they just had to reboot everything there. So once they rebooted at Oshweekend, everything was fine, but it was more than likely they didn't refresh in between the long broadcasts that they'd already had on GeForce. So it's tough. It's true. Absolutely true, Jeremy. It hasn't reached its full potential. You are 100% correct. If not for Flow, no US Pinties, I can follow the IMCA sprints. Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. I know that there's a lot of options that people like or they don't like. It's really kind of what we can get. Why World of Sports? Yeah. Honestly, Flow Racing could in fact be the motorsports game. Oh, Owl. That's the motorsport games. Ouch. That's the biggest insult I've heard today. Oh man, Rev would be a good one because Rev you can get on cable too. So, I know there was talk about Mav. Was it Mav? No, Rev TV Canada. That's potentially someplace. I know Mav TV Canada at one point was something. Jim Haynes, at this point, people might start trying to pirate broadcasts from Flow Racing if the public finds out about this. Well, maybe. I mean, people pirate all sorts of broadcasts as it is, right? The reality is people don't want to pay for cable. They don't want to pay for subscriptions, right? It's a tough sell. A lot of the times, the channels that people pay for is for one thing. So if it's me, obviously, it's tough, right? You have NASCAR Pinty series being broadcast live is a huge step for this series. And I think a lot of people forget. We didn't have live broadcasting a couple years ago. None. Nothing. You had timing and scoring, and that was it. I'm not sure if they're direct, Sean's Garage. I don't believe it's a direct transfer from MAV TV to Rev. I think they're two separate entities, but I believe it kind of became the remnants from what was MAV TV Canada. Could be wrong, though. They used to have the races on MAV TV here, tape delayed, but not in the last few years. I believe when that switch was made to Flow, that's when MAV TV was out of the picture. So obviously we head to Delaware Speedway. Great conversation tonight, guys. We've done a very good job being able to fill the hour up. It went really quick, actually. But we have a couple more episodes. We're going to go probably take a couple of weeks break following the finale. Next week, we'll definitely be here on the Monday. I hope to have a voice because I will be there this weekend. In my opinion, I think the Pinty Series should cancel the whole flow racing shtick and live. That's not a NASCAR Pinty's thing, though. That's a NASCAR thing, remember? Because ARCA and the Whelen Series are on flow racing. It's a NASCAR deal, not a Pinty's deal. So, unfortunately, they have to kind of figure it out. I agree with you. I think live streaming on YouTube for free is the right call. I think if it were me, I'm going to GeForce TV. I'm not just saying that because I'm on the broadcast on GeForce TV. But look at what people want. They want free and they want accessible. That's the way to go about it. I feel, though, the next step for Pinty's is to become more relevant in personal media. Drivers themselves building a fan base as opposed to relying on the networks to build an audience. Well, you can't rely on the networks here, Garrett. I mean, you know that. You've been lucky enough, though. Garrett is a great representation as to what I'm talking about with GeForce. His races aren't always broadcast, but some of them are broadcast on GeForce TV. All of a sudden now, you have an option of telling your sponsor it's going to be on YouTube at this time and it will be free. Now, take it from a Pinty Series team. Let's say you're a Pinty Series driver who has a couple of small sponsors and you have to tell them, oh, it'll be online if you have a subscription. Oh, it'll be online here if you have a subscription. Oh, it'll be on here, but not until a week later, and it'll be on a tape delay, so it'll only be an hour long. Right? You hear the difference between what is going to be painful for a sponsor to hear and what isn't? It's not, again, though, remember, Jeremy, it's not the series. We have to remember this. The series was, again, it's got its own team, but who is in charge? NASCAR is the one that makes the choice, right? So it's not that they need to swallow the pride. They know where they want to go, right? But they have to remember that they have to abide and they have to follow what is the rules, what is set in charge, right? So now, if you have a new team in charge that says, hey, we're going to have a brand new interactive website. We're going to have a brand new YouTube channel that we're putting everything on. And can you imagine practice, qualifying, driver interviews, shows like this, right? Where they constantly have NASCAR Pinty stuff 24/7. I'm telling you, things would change. But we have to remember the money that goes involved in all of that. It is a lot of investment. So if you can get people that will invest that type of capital into it, then yes, it's a great idea. However, we have to remember this channel has live racing. It does. It has live racing in Oshwegan Weekly. It has APC, every single race for the APC series. It has races at Merrittville. It has races at Humberstone. It does a lot. And I think for the most part, the racing is great. But let's just say that they had an issue at GP3R and stuff went out. It's a little bit different now because it's free. And isn't Adam Ross a very active member of this page? Shout out to Adam. Lobby the right people. Adam would do it, man. Clinton and Adam are both heavily involved in this series, right? They do a lot of work for the NASCAR Pinty series. You know, Adam does the broadcast, and Clinton is on most of the time in the pits. He's running around like a crazy guy. It's not as simple as that, because you have to remember, Jeremy, that they have signed contracts with Flow Racing. It's not something that they can just break. So if they've signed a 10-year contract with Flow Racing, 10 years is what you're going to get. But again, we've said we've had a series director that has helped oversee to a point where we're now going out to Newfoundland. We're going to the dirt. We've built reputable races, big races, like GP3R. They've got live broadcasts. They've got opportunities for people to come into this series and run rentals. They can run week to week. I think there's a lot more potential here. I think you have a lot more Canadians out there in the racing world. We've seen names like Kyle Marcelli come into this series. Daniel Morad. I don't know why we haven't seen James Hinchcliffe yet. That's a name that I think you could get. Make it a big deal. We've seen representation coming through. Tony Spiteri's bringing people left and right into the series. We had members of the Arkells that were at the Toronto race. You have Kerry Schmidt from the OPP, who's got a big social media presence. This is how you do it. You get people that have followings. Then all of a sudden, you get them to get their followers following as well. We've seen a steady increase in the NASCAR Pinty Series community page on Facebook. If you haven't joined already, join on one of the admins there. We've seen a steady growth. Wes is one of our admins. We've gone from, 2.6 from November of 2020, I believe it's 2020, to now we're at 5.8, almost 5.9, so 5,900 fans that have joined that group. Steady increase of social media presence. We need to continue that. Is this weekend a features, double features? Yes. It's actually a triple header in a way, Sean's. It is Friday. You have your weekly Bone Stock Championship, which could be up to 40, maybe even 50 bone stocks at Delaware Speedway. Then you have the Super Stock Championship. Garrett Teemer's in the chat here. He's a part of it. He's also going to be competing against probably, I could see about 30 cars. I'm not sure if we'll get that many, but it's like 3 or 4 car battle for the championship there. Then on the Saturday, you have the Oscar Hot Rod Championship and the Oscar Modified Championship. Then you have the APC Series Championship, all on the Saturday. Then we go to Sunday. You have 2 King of the Hill specials, one for SUVs and trucks, one for cars, the Nationals they'll call them, and then the NASCAR Pinty Series Fall Brawl Finale. 250 laps, Delaware Speedway for the Fall Brawl. It is one hell of a weekend. Don't forget, of course, you've got your Thursday concert, of course, which is always a lot of fun. This year they have the James Barker Band, the Reklas, and Gord Bamford. I can't really say that I know a lot of those names, but hey, if they're your cup of tea, definitely get out there and enjoy it. You need more paille as they do promotions, right, for sure, and you are blessed to have quick people. They are great and post things daily. Absolutely. I'll tell you, man, JC Paille, listen, I've had the pleasure of talking with him. There's nobody more passionate than about this series than JC Paille. There's a lot of great people in this series, but man, he really wants this series to succeed, not just his team, and he's definitely really excited about what things are going to be happening for the series for years to come. He was in part of making some big deals happen, and he's trying to make things happen. So very, very big things can happen there. JR Fitzpatrick and DJ need to come to a contract agreement for JR to drive a DJK car full time. I agree. Having a Fitzpatrick back would be huge. My dad would be happier than a pig, and you know what? That's great, man. I would love to see J.R. Fitzpatrick. I think he's fantastic in this series. It comes down to money. I would love to see him come back, though. I've done a couple of fictional cars. I want to see him just even though Don Thompson, was his teammate, I want to see him come back and run number 4 Home Hardware, an 84 Home Hardware. I know that's Larry Jackson's car now, but I just want to see him come back. That would be awesome. Ryerson Hargrave, who do you think is going to win Sunday? Tough call. Tough call for sure. I think DJ is going to be tough. Brandon Watson's going to be tough. Trayton Lapsovich is going to be tough. Mark-Antoine Cameron going to be tough. Andrew Ranger going to be tough. If I'm going to pick somebody, I got to go DJ Kennington. He is so good at Delaware Speedway. And he won 2 of the 3 last year. So I got to go with him. Owl, in terms of Pinty Series, should they try and emulate what NASCAR is doing and clash in terms of a preseason race inside of a major stadium? I don't think we've got a major stadium that could fit NASCAR Pinty Series cars. I mean, you could try the Sky Dome, but Toronto is not really a racing marketplace as much as I'd love to say. I mean, they have their Monster Jam, which goes. You have to remember too, they'd have to compete against hockey and against the Leafs. And so you're gonna have to put the Jays in the playoffs. You're gonna have to have the Maple Leafs and the Raptors and try to work around that. At least for Toronto, that's not going to happen. So your best bet would be going to Bell Center. And again, same situation. I don't know if you're going to be able to find it. So, Jeremy, I appreciate that, man. His skill, his personality, it's captivating. Listen, man, thank you, Jeremy. I really appreciate you for tuning in. Owl, not sure about Olympic Stadium. I'm not sure how big that. I mean, if it's, we know NASCAR. NASCAR's tough to police. So, but I mean, hey, it's been talked about. We've mentioned, why don't you do some sort of an ice race? We're in Canada, aren't we? See if these Pinty's cars can work on ice or snow. It's a true Canadian race right there. We're true Canadian racing fans. Make sure you check out the Stickers and Scuffs podcast. This week we'll have Dave Bradley joining us, talking about the NASCAR Pinty Series season. Of course, we'll be back next week at 7 o'clock. Now Liz join me for just a quick second. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in and had a chat with me tonight. I didn't even have to cover a lot of stuff because you guys were very chatty. We'll be back next week talking all about the finale, maybe what we'll see in the future for next year. Possible. Let's talk about what we're going to see on the schedule, see who's going to come back, maybe who won't. Silly season, man. That's all sorts of fun stuff. Special non-point races, touchy. Yep. Financially terms. That's the thing. People, we don't have the money, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. The Rogers Center would be fun. Hey, Riggs, I think that would be kind of fun to see these cars try and run around in that. But, yeah, I appreciate it, man. And we'll be at the track on Saturday, Sunday for the APC and the Pinty Series race. Make sure you guys follow the NASCAR Pinty Series social media. Follow us on the NASCAR Pinty Series community. And, of course, Stickers and Scuffs. Really excited to continue this all during the off season. We'll see you guys all back next week. Make sure you guys do yourselves a favor. Follow Riegser on YouTube. He does great stuff for the NASCAR Pinty Series, has race breakdowns, and does an amazing video as to why the NASCAR Pinty Series deserves more attention. Definitely give him a big shout out and give him some subscribers. He deserves it. We deserve it at Stickers and Scuffs as well because we are nonstop talking about the NASCAR Pinty Series. We will see you all next weekend. I got one more question here. Cat's always tuning in, man. They're always here. Except Chester's sleeping right now. So, Kyle Steckley full-time next year, Ryerson? I hope so. I have asked him this question, all dependent on sponsorship for him next year. My belief is he's still full-time next year in APC. I'd love to see if he's going to do Pinty's as well. I got an interview to do, so I will talk to you all real soon.